Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I created this makeup look right here. I am obsessed. I think it is so pretty, so tropical. I'm obsessed. So the eye look, unfortunately, is not using anything new. I did just use my Carnival palettes by BPERFECT. This is actually the XL Pro palette. So this baby right here, I love this palette. It's one of my favorites. And when I tell you that I use and abuse this palette, as you guys can see, I've hit pan on quite a few shades in this palette at this point. It's definitely one of my favorites, and a lot of my makeup looks are done with this palette as well as the Love Tahiti. So that's exciting. Besides that, I'm actually testing out a ton of new makeup in today's video. A lot of the things that I'm wearing on my face today, I actually hauled in my Sephora haul part 2. So I'm super excited to show you guys everything. I'm wearing the Marc Jacobs foundation. I'm also using the Patrick Ta contour duo along with his brush. I also did use one of the Kaja trios. So a ton of good stuff in today's video. So I'm really excited to show you this look. Overall, the look came out really pretty. I really love the eyes. I'm obsessed with them. This look was actually inspired by another makeup artist as well. I'm going to go ahead and leave her Instagram down below. Her name is Rebecca Heller. She does the most beautiful looks ever, and she works very closely with BPERFECT Cosmetics. That's actually the way that I found her, and I have been obsessed ever since. So she recently posted this look on her Instagram. She did it on herself, and I really wanted to recreate it. So that's where we are for today's video. I'm very excited to jump right into it. So before we jump in, please don't forget to give this video a huge thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you guys have not already. And of course, without further ado, if you guys would like to see how I created this makeup look today and see all these new products in action, because honey, I got some opinions, then just keep on watching. So let's go ahead and get started with today's makeup look. So of course, I'm going to be prepping my eyelid with my P.LOUISE base in the shade Rumour number 2, especially when I'm working with colorful looks or colorful shadows. I love using this base because it really does give you a really nice blank canvas, and the best part is you do not have to set it. You want it to be a little tacky, so that way it's really going to adhere to your shadows and really make them look as vibrant as possible. Okay, so moving on to the eyeshadow palette, I'm going to be using the BPERFECT Carnival XL Pro palette. Absolutely love this palette. I've done so many looks with it. So the first shade I'm going to be using for today's look is the shade Mood. On camera right now, it looks super bright, but it's a very deep blue. However, as you guys can see, it does apply very light. So it's something that you definitely have to pack on. And I'm just packing this into the socket of my eye and really building up the intensity. To go ahead and blend out that darker blue, I'm going to go into the shade called Make Waves. This is actually one of my favorite blues in this palette. It is so beautiful, and I'm basically just going to take this on another fluffy but blending brush, and I'm going to go ahead and run this shade on the edge of that darker blue, just so that way I can start to diffuse that harsh line, because it's really harsh at the moment and I want to make sure the blend is as seamless as possible. So that's what I'm doing here. It's all going to come together in the end, so at this point you just have to trust the process. So the next shade I'm going to be using is the shade called The Hype, but I'm also going to be using the shade Ecstasy as well, so I wanted to show you both. So Ecstasy is actually one of my favorite shades in this palette as well. It's so beautiful, but first here I'm using the shade The Hype. And I'm taking a blending brush as well, but it's a little less dense than the other ones I've been using, because I want the color to start to really diffuse out going up towards the brow bone. I don't want it to be as harsh or intense. So I took that shade first and obviously blended it across that entire blue line, and then I did go in with the shade Ecstasy as my last shade because it is lighter than all the shades I've used so far, just to make sure everything is nice and blended. So at this point, all the colors are pretty much laid down. I went in and just basically re-intensified everything just to make sure every color blended really well in together. And then what I'm going to do is go in with some black eyeshadows to start to give me the dimension that I want. And for that, I'm using the shade Lights Out, which is also from the same eyeshadow palette. So super convenient because every single shadow that I'm using is from the palette. You don't have to worry about dipping into any other palette in your collection. So all I'm doing here is creating kind of like the shape that I want, but I'm not taking this black too high because I don't want it to overpower the eye look, but I do want to bring it up high enough so that way when I cut my crease, you'll still be able to see that intensity. Alright, so I did go off camera and I went ahead and cut my crease with my usual P. Louise base in the shade Blank Canvas just to save us some time. I show you guys how I cut my crease all the time. But for the eyelid itself, I'm going in with the shade Keen. It's a beautiful kind of like orangey undertoned yellow, if that makes sense. So gorgeous, you guys. So I basically packed it in towards the middle of the eye. I left the inner corner bare and I left the outer corner bare because different colors are going there. So I popped on the yellow first, and then for the inner corner I went in with the white eyeshadow in the palette called Pillow Talk, and I basically just made sure that the yellow and the white meshed really well together. So it went from like a bright white to like a really light pastel yellow to the intense yellow, and then now I'm working on the blue on the outer corner. So I first started off with the shade Mood. Again, like I said, this shade, it looks dark in the palette, but it comes off pretty light. And then of course, to make sure it's intensified, I did go over it with the shade Lights Out, which is basically the black eyeshadow in the palette. And at this point, the eye look is basically done as far as shaping it, exactly putting the colors where I want them. So all I'm doing now is just basically building every single color up and making sure that that blend is, girl, seamless. So I did apply my lashes off camera, but I just wanted to show you guys quickly which ones they are. So they are from the brand PINKLEAF Cosmetics, and I'm going to leave the style down below, but they're so beautiful and wispy, so I went ahead and popped those on. Moving on to primer, like I said, I'm using a ton of new stuff in today's video, so I decided to go in with this Gucci primer I've been holding on to for what feels like forever at this point. So packaging is so cute, A+ in my book. It's so beautiful. I love the gold on the pump. It's gorgeous. However, was it nice? Yes. Did it hydrate? Absolutely. But you guys, this literally smelled like I was putting perfume on my face. It was so heavily fragranced, I could not take it. And usually I'm not someone who's sensitive to scents. So moving on to foundation, I'm using the Marc Jacobs foundation that you guys see me haul in my Sephora haul. I do want to let you guys know right now, I did already return this at Sephora. The color was off, as you guys can see, so it was more so because of the color, but it also wasn't something that I was like over the moon about, so that's why I didn't exchange it for another color. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, amazing. This actually reminded me a lot of the Hard Candy one that you guys see me use all the time. Very similar, even down to the packaging, and that one's only about $5, and this one, even though it was on sale, it still ran you about $26. So it was pretty on the skin. It did blend really nicely. I didn't have any issues, but it's not something that I would personally recommend, and I did return it. So that's what I applied for foundation. So moving on to cream contour, I'm using the new Patrick Ta Contour Duo. This one is in the shade She's Statuesque. Super beautiful. So it has a cream at the top, powder at the bottom, and I'm also using his brush. You guys, at first I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work, but this brush was bomb. Okay, like it really chiseled out my cheeks. It was so good, and the contour color was perfect. It was not too cool. I thought it was going to be very cool tone. It wasn't. It was perfect. I'm absolutely in love with it. It is so good. So that's what I did for my bronzer. For blush, I did go in with the new Hourglass Vanish Stick Blush. I'll leave the shade name down below. This was very pretty, you guys. It did blend really nicely. It was more of a sheer blush, so it's something that you have to build, which is not a bad thing whatsoever because you have a lot of control over this product. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. It didn't blow my mind. It wasn't like anything amazing, but it was really nice. So moving on to concealer, I'm using the Sephora Collection Full Coverage Concealer. I will say right off the bat, I do not like the fact that it's a squeeze tube. It reminds me of the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye, and the packaging is not my favorite, but the concealer did work really well. It did cover really nicely. I just, girl, I'm lazy. Like, I do not want to have to do that extra step and put it on the back of my hand and use a brush. But if you don't mind, it was definitely a nice concealer. It wasn't too thick, but it also wasn't too thin. It blended really nicely, and the color was perfect. So like I said, all the color names of everything will be down below so you guys can check everything out. So moving on to setting my under eyes, I'm going to be using the Sephora Translucent Setting Powder. Love this. This is not a first impression on this product. I've used it already. It's beautiful. It's basically a colorless powder that's just going to set your concealer in place. It's not going to give you any extra coverage or any brightness. It's just going to set your concealer. It is beautiful, and I highly recommend it. You guys, it makes my under eyes look so smooth, as you can see, and it blends just like effortlessly. It's gorgeous. All right, so let's move on to this powder. I know you guys just saw that. This is the Dior face powder that I bought during the sale. Are you kidding me? Okay, this is the second Dior product that I've purchased that the powder comes out of the pan. this is way too expensive for this to be happening. So I did try this powder in today's video. I put it right back in the pan. So the powder itself didn't break when it hit the floor, but still, for the price point, it should not be doing that. So I did also return this product already. I did not exchange it for another color. This shade was a little bit light, but I was like, girl, for the price, absolutely not. So I returned it. It wasn't a bad powder. It had a nice luminosity to it, but like I said, just not worth your money. Definitely save your coins on that one. So moving on to bronzer, I wanted to use a bronzer that I know that I love, because that powder had my head a little messed up. I was like, what is happening right now? So this is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in the shade Dark Tan. Super beautiful bronzer. I love it. It's very warm, which I prefer in my bronzer, and I think it's stunning, and I've used it a lot of times on my channel. So nothing fancy. That's what I'm using here. For blush, I didn't have any new peachy toned blush, so I went in with this one right here from Rimmel. This is their Rimmel Maxi blush. I believe in the shade Sweet Cheeks, but like I said, everything will be down below. So I went ahead and popped that on my cheeks, and then I went in with this Bento Play, I believe it's called, from Kaja, because I really wanted to try this highlighter. So as you can see, the highlighter was beautiful, you guys. I wanted to try the blush too, but it was a little bit too pink for today's look, but so far so good. However, it wasn't as gold as I wanted, so I did go in with my Dior highlighter palette in pure gold. This was limited edition, but I went ahead and popped that on my cheeks. And then moving on to the lower lash line, I'm going to be first taking the shade called Mood. And I'm taking that on a flat definer brush to really pack it super close to my lower lash line, especially because with a look like this, the outer edge is so sharp that you don't want your lower lash line to be too blown out. I mean, it is personal preference. At the end of the day, this is makeup and you can rinse it and wash it off. So girl, do whatever you like. It's all personal preference. But for me, with this more elongated, very sharp edge, I like my lower lash line to really match that outer corner. So I went in with that dark blue, and then now I'm going in with the shade Make Waves just to make sure everything is nice and blended. And then I am also going to go in with the shade Ecstasy, which is the brighter green, and I'm basically just going back and forth with all those colors just to make sure they're blending really nicely, and basically just until I like the way it all looks. So I also went in with the shade Lights Out, which is the black, just to intensify a little bit, and then I did take the shade Keen in the inner part of the lower lash line just to add some of that yellow. So for my waterline, I'm going in with this LA Girl Neon Shockwave liner. I'm going to go ahead and leave the shade name down below. Love these liners. You guys see me use them very often. They're so beautiful, and I don't see many people talk about them. They're so good. So I went ahead and just applied that, and you guys, that is basically it for the lower lashes. So what I'm going to do now is just give myself a good coat of lower lash mascara. This is the MAC. I believe it's called the Giga Black Lash. So good. Been loving it for my lower lash line. It's so beautiful, and that basically completes the look. So for setting spray, I'm going to be using the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Mist. I haven't used this on my channel in a little bit, so I drenched my face in it, of course, and the look is done. So I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I absolutely love it. I love Rebecca Heller's looks. I'm going to go ahead and leave her Instagram down below so you guys can check her out as well. I highly recommend that you do, because she's so bomb. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.